Hi there, I am David Susan, and this is Inside the Leader's Mind, where what's in the way becomes the way. Our guest today is Tim Baum. He's an award winning executive with over 30 years of success in the restaurant industry. He's led operations for more than 200 locations, driving results in everything from strategic planning, customer satisfaction, to profitability and team development. Tim is known for turning around underperforming stores, launching new ventures, and building high performing teams. He brings deep expertise in growth, strategy, operational excellence, and leadership, making him the perfect person to help us understand what it really takes to drive lasting business success. Tim, welcome.
Hey, thank you, David. Happy to be here.
Oh, we're glad you were able to make the time to be with us today. I would love to start if you could just tell us a little bit about what your current role is.
Yeah, so currently I'm the vice president of operations for Hooters of America. So oversee all of our company-owned domestic restaurants across the country. So it's been a fun time, very rewarding.
Wow. How many restaurants roughly is that right now, the company owned?
Uh, so company-owned right now, we're about 150 company-owned restaurants right now that we currently operate. Going from the Eastern Seaboard all the way out to Texas.
Wow. Wow. And tell me a little bit about how you ended up in this role.
So it's interesting. I actually started out cooking for Hooters in my final year and a half of college,
Oh, wow.
and going to school for a business management degree. And then when I graduated, was approached at the time by the area supervisor over the store that I was at under the recommendation of my general manager, and asked me if I'd want to go into management. So I actually took it as an option and was just like, yeah, I'll try this for a while and see how it goes. And so I kind of signed on, went into the management and training program, and the rest is history. 33 years later, I'm still here and now doing what I'm doing. It's been a great opportunity that's taught me so much about business along the way and people development and just really how to run a business. And it's been really rewarding and a great opportunity that turned into a lifelong career.
That is crazy how many years you've been in especially in today's world where that longevity is not what it used to be. What do you attribute in your career to being able to have that longevity, especially when others haven't?
Yeah, you know what? I think a lot of it has to do with the brand itself. We have a ton of tenure with inside of our company, and I attribute a lot of that to while it's corporate, it's very much got a great culture, like a family culture, where everyone's just been connected and working. I mean, I have my four directors of operation. The baby of the group has been with the brand 15 years, up to 30 years. So we've just got a ton of longevity, and I really contribute that to the culture of the company and how great the brand is, but then also just the relationships that have been built over the years with the people that everyone just seems to work very well together, seems to be dedicated. It's a fun brand to work for. And it just seems to, we've got a lot of longevity, through the entire system. So that's great to see, which is, to your point, not the norm nowadays.
Right, right. Well, and I think, and I'd love your opinion on this, but what I'm hearing is there's got to be a great culture that supports that. Is that where does that come from?
Absolutely. You know what? I think it's just been kind of the grassroots and coming up, through the system that there's a lot of, it's probably 50% of our managers and above store leaders all started out with the brand in hourly employee positions. So we've got a great mix of internal people that have grown up in the brand and in the culture, that really is balanced well by people that have come in from, external sources and external brands. So you kind of get a great mix and longevity there of great sharing of ideas. So, you've got a great half of the company that's really ingrained in the culture and what's gone on with the brand and in tune with it. And then you get people that come in from the outside that really bring some perspectives that they have gotten through their career and working for other concepts. And it really seems to mesh well. And I think that's really what's kind of built the culture of the brand and has really made it successful for, the retention and just having people around for so long.
It's interesting because in so many other organizations, companies I work with, or executives that I coach, there's a lot of additional outside influence from investors, stock market, PE firms, and it changes the culture because all of a sudden it goes from, hey, this is fine, but we got to do more, make more, and that pressure changes. And we see that in a lot of the, I don't want to name names, but there's a large aircraft uh, company, not aircraft company, but airline, I should say, that
Hmm.
has gone through this, and other companies. Has that impacted your organization? Have you seen this? Has that, or how have you avoided it if it hasn't?
Yeah, absolutely. We are currently owned by a PE firm, and this is our second PE firm. And there was some of those struggles, I would say, and some of those challenges initially of, them coming in and having a vision of what they thought the brand would be. And there's been some of that back and forth. I think what's been successful part of it is, our current, CEO and president has been with the brand and started with the founders of the brand. So I think that was, able to have some leadership there to kind of keep it grounded. And I think some of the people, like myself and our COO, that group of coming from internally in the brand and being with it so long has helped to counterbalance and kind of keep, some of the ideas and the culture intact. But we've definitely had those challenges of them coming in and, hey, there's, obviously those different pressures around, profitability and their ideas. And I think it's been well and, there's been some open dialogue on, what works and what doesn't work. And there's been some evolution from the brands. And we've definitely tried things that necessarily haven't worked. But we're able to pivot and kind of be very flexible. Um, to kind of counterbalance that and kind of figure out what works and make changes as we need to. But I think the blend of kind of that executive leadership and some people that were brought in with the PE groups, along with the balance, like I said earlier, of people that grew up in the brand, has kind of maybe helped stem some of those challenges at times.
And I think that's huge because you don't always see that. Sometimes you bring in new financing, new PE, new, and then that top level leadership changes and you lose that culture. So that's something to learn from, right, for other organizations and leaders if you want to maintain that culture. Um, you were telling your story a little bit. You've been there 33 years. Was that the right number?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Started as a cook. When I work with leaders, I am always fascinated if you look at your life, and when I say life, I mean it could be from a young age. What would you say would be a turning point, one or two turning points that you think made the biggest impact on who you are today? And maybe it's what you already told me, but what do you think that would be? Or
Yeah,
those?
you know what? I think there's a couple. First from a personal side, once you start having children, your perspective on life changes. And I'm blessed to have, four children and two stepchildren, and that really kind of changes your perspective on just how you look at things. You just get a different perspective on life because now you're responsible for these individuals and they just, kind of change how you set up and what prioritizes your life. They become the priority and it just kind of changes your perspective and, you want to do the best to provide them with, the experiences and the knowledge and all them to make them, great human beings, successful in their own way as they grow up. So I think that's probably one of the biggest. I think the other one was really a couple of times, and I think it's been as I've taken steps in leadership. So when you're first become a general manager of a restaurant, and then all of a sudden, you're the one that everyone looks to for leadership, and you're the one that kind of drives the results and the culture within your own restaurant. And it's kind of you don't think about it, but it's kind of like all eyes are on you. Everyone's always looking, even when you don't think they're looking for you and hey, how you relate, the example you set, the culture you bring, and the level of respect. And I've always been one of those people that, hey, you want people to kind of focus on the message versus the delivery. And I think I learned that really when you become the general manager, and really take that first big leadership role. And then that kind of, continued to happen for me as, become multi-unit level. Now you're really impacting, multiple restaurants, and you've got general managers looking for you as that example of leadership. And hey, how do you carry yourself? How you develop yourself? And I know we talk a lot about the iceberg and, hey, there's the tip of the iceberg, but then there's all that underwater that really is the shadow you cast when you're in there as a leader and the example you set. So I think those have been some pivotal ones just because shaping me as a leader, realizing that all eyes are on you and that people are looking for you to kind of set the tone, the culture, the respect, and how we treat people, and how we show up every day is really important because that kind of sets the example for how everybody else should show up. And I really think that kind of helps to stem some of that partnership as a leader as well, is to explain the why and get the buy-in. And so really I think from a personal standpoint, to kind of wrap that up, I think it's just how your perspective on life changes once you have children, and you're not just responsible for yourself, but others, and how you show up for them, but then how you show up as a leader. And I think the pivotal parts was, taking that step to becoming a general manager and realizing that, hey, I'm in charge of, all these people. And then doing that again at a multi-unit level, starting out as, an area supervisor all the way up to where I am now. We have calls, I'm in markets. It's, how I show up as a leader really impacts the organization.
Love that. Love that. And that kind of feeds into the next question I was thinking is, what do you think your greatest differentiator or strength is as a leader? Sometimes I call it your superpower. But what do you think it is, and what do you attribute this success to?
I really think it comes down to relationships. I think, building, the relationships with the people that you lead and letting them know that, you care about them personally. You prioritize them as a person. It's not, I mean, we're all in the business to make money. It's a for-profit organization. It's all about, driving sales, driving profitability, but we're in the people business. And we talk a lot about that within our organization. That's really what we're in, whether it's your internal guest or your external guest. And I really think the success as a leader for me has come from building those relationships. And I kind of brought that up earlier, that's why I attribute some of the longevity of people in our company is those relationships and just knowing that, hey, I want you to be successful. I want to create the conditions where you can be successful, give you the tools, be there to kind of help alleviate any roadblocks, give you the support you need. And, when I'm in restaurants, we kind of sit there and we talk about all those financial things. We talk about the facility. We talk about, hey, the results and the KPIs. But at the end of the day, we always wrap it up with, hey, what can I do for you? Whether it's personally or professionally to kind of help them get to where they need to get to or give them the tools. And what questions do you have for me? I always kind of end it that way because I think, that's the important part of showing that, hey, I'm here to work as a team. While we all have leaders and titles, it's really working as a cohesive unit and a team to be successful and deliver for our hourly team members and our guests.
Yeah, very good. What do you think the biggest challenge is today in leadership, especially when you just look at kind of the broad perspective of across the board?
You know what? I think one of the biggest thing is, the recognizing the need to shift as a leader. And what I mean by that is really across the generations. I've been in this business, like I said, 33 years, and you see just your workforce has changed from generation. You've got, Generation Z and Generation X and, the millennials, and really you've just got to start to pivot your leadership in terms of, what is the new workforce? What's their priorities? When I first started with this business, everybody was about, hey, showing up and I want to get my hours, I want to get my work. And I'd say today, there was a lot of conversation. There's some of that. And today we're, working with a generation that's much more instant gratification. They use their cell phones. They're used to apps. They're used to, I can click this and I can get the answer. I can be involved in this. There's, the social media aspect where just that interaction. So, I'd say the biggest challenge is really trying to be nimble as a leader and continue to flex your management style to the people you're managing and how that changes over the years and prioritizes, in terms of what you're trying to accomplish and how you do that for different generations, and just an ever changing workforce. I really believe.
Do you think there is an underlying commonality of leadership that works effective in all generations? Or do you think it is so different for every generation? Because I hear different things. I'd love your perspective.
Um, you know what? I think it's probably 50-50. I think there's some stuff when you talk about just the relationship building and I think, the delivery of your message and just kind of how you show up as a leader. I think that goes across all generations. I think when it really kind of comes to the flex thing is just, from a training standpoint, the training has changed from generation to generation. I mean, you've had, when I first started with the company, we used to, you did the binders, you did the paper stuff, you did the test, and then it's turned into LMS systems where, hey, it's more digital and it's learning and doing that. And now we're in the AI world. We're using a platform for guest service that now is AI generated on, hey, here's some of your opportunities. And we have, AI telling them, hey, from training manuals, this is what you can do to improve these metrics. So I think that's probably been the biggest change is, adapting to the technology because technology has moved, but our workforce now is so much more tech savvy. So, I think the basic leaderships, like I said, how you deal with people, how you show up and how you carry yourself as a leader hasn't changed, but there's definitely aspects, especially on the technology side with, learning and development and that type of stuff that has changed from generation to generation.
So you got the people side, which is what I'm hearing. You got the people side, and then you have the training development application side. But it sounds like the people side, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, that's basically still valuing, again, not to put words in your mouth, but valuing the individual and just treating them like people, no matter where they're
Absolutely.
at.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. No matter what generation, where they're at, how you show up for that group, how you value them as individuals and, um, making sure that you're doing everything to set them up for success, to make them successful.
Yeah. What do you think your personal greatest challenge is from where you are to if you say, hey, this would be optimal, the best? What's that gap? What do you think the opportunity for you is right now in your career to get even better?
Um, I'd say probably the biggest challenge is just to continue to adapt, and to continue to look at things with a fresh mindset. Sometimes it's easy to sit there and go, "Well, hey, we did this, and hey, this worked." And what you did before that worked may not work now, because of, just the way our world's changing, the business is changing. Obviously, in the restaurant sector now, there's a lot of challenges with everything going on with the economy. And, sometimes you look back and say, hey, well, we could do this, this worked before. And it's really trying to make sure that, hey, how do you adapt and do things maybe a little bit different, where you don't always go back to the toolbox and pull it out. I think sometimes that works, but sometimes even whatever that plan you had before that worked, you may have to adapt. Um, to make it work in today's society or under the current conditions, whatever those may be. So I think that's probably the biggest thing is just trying to make sure, hey, you're continuing to look at things, want to stay true to the core roots of yourself as a leader and to the business and to the brand and what's made it successful. But sometimes there's some things you might have to tweak and adapt a little bit as things evolve. And I think that's probably, probably one of the biggest challenges is being able to be open-minded and remembering to, to adapt and look outside of that comfort zone.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. All right. I want to wrap with one last question.
Sure.
And this might be a curveball, a little curve,
Okay.
because I didn't give you this ahead of you for to think about. But always, I like to share the example in my own life is I would, when I was a kid meaning could be, middle school, high school, college, whatever. And I would feel proud about something I did, but I was very shy and introverted. And I'd get together with family members and they would ask me aunts and uncles, and they would ask me the same question, what are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. In the back of my mind, I always thought, man, I wish they would ask me about this, but they didn't know to ask me about that. And I didn't tell them. I didn't forthcomingly just go, hey, let me word vomit and tell you all about what I'm most proud of, which might have been, anything. So here's the question for you. What is the question I didn't ask, other people don't ask you, but you wish they would so you could share something about yourself with them? What would that question be that I didn't ask? You wish I would. What do you
You
think?
know what? I think some of that is I think that question would be probably what is the most rewarding thing for me personally um in my time, whether it's been in my career or my personal life. And I really think it comes down to just the relationships you build. I think that, at the end of the day, how you feel you've treated people and kind of those relationships that you've built and mended over, and put together over the years. Just really the impact that I kind of hope that I've made on other people's lives that, hey, I'm a good person and that they've learned something from me. I've always been one that's really enjoyed the fact that, when you see someone get promoted or even when I see like the success my kids have now, I just in the back of my mind hope that I had some impact that helped them get to where that was. And I think that's probably the biggest, most rewarding thing is just thinking that, hey, I hope I've had a positive impact on people's lives.
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Any final thoughts? Anything you need? And you don't need to, but any final thoughts you want to share with me? Any other last comments before we wrap up here?
No, I just really appreciate the opportunity. This has been rewarding to come on and talk about leadership and I always enjoy doing that. I really enjoy the people development side of, whatever the business is. We're in the people business and I am grateful for the 33 years that I've had with this, Hooters brand and we are continuing to strive. We just opened a new location this week up in the Villages in Florida, and we're continuing to grow, and the future is bright. And will continue to be bright, and we're just looking forward to it. And I hope to continue to be part of it for a long, long time. But
Oh,
and really
wonderful.
enjoy doing this kind of stuff, and really being able to get out there and kind of share my experiences because I think that's a big part of life is being able to share your stories and your experiences that kind of help other people learn from those and also hear theirs where that it kind of helps you grow as a person as well. So I'm just really appreciative of the opportunity and you reaching out and giving me that today.
Absolutely. Well, Tim, thank you so much for being with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, that is our show today. This is Inside the Leader's Mind, and I'm David Susan, and we'll talk to you soon.